Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Enlightened Entrepreneur UK. Today's interview is sponsored by World Outsourcing Solutions, where we specialize in providing virtual employees and all other outsourcing services to business owners around the country, here in the UK, in Australia, the US, and Canada. Today's interview is a very special interview that I would like to bring to you, because the lady who will be talking to us is an exceptional lady, has been working in this field for so many years. In fact, here's what she has to say about herself. She is a positive psychologist and a coach. She has a special interest in organizational health and well-being, occupational burnout, leadership, and development. She has designed and facilitated the Coaching for Change, Positive Psychology in Action workshop, co-authored Your Pocket Full of Inspiration, 100 Ways to Happiness, and is the contributor author for a number of prominent psychology magazines. Now, Sarah Tottle is the co-founder of GSL Coaching Limited. Welcome to the call, Sarah.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing really, really well, and I'm pleased to have you here with us today and with our audience.
Likewise. Thank you.
Incredible. Now, Sarah, to get us started, would you tell us a bit about your background and how you got started, and then we will reveal the title of the interview to our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in psychological services. I did my training at the NHS in complex depression, anxiety and trauma. And then I went on to take on a senior role as a mental health advisor at a charity. At the charity for a little while, and I did some community development projects. I worked on a coaching workshop. I developed that coaching workshop, and I implemented a lot of the positive psychology aspects within the service as well. So I worked one-on-one with clients that were suffering from mental ill health, and I helped them through using coaching mechanisms to make positive lifestyle changes and to move forward so that they no longer needed services. Having been in mental health services for quite a while, I was actually on a doctoral program at the time, specialising in mental health, but I had it was on my heart to make changes in the workplace, because I saw a lot of practitioners, especially in mental health, whether they're doctors or whether they're nurses, social workers or psychologists, they were really suffering. There was a high rate of burnout, a high rate of stress at work. There's a high attrition rate as well. So mental health nurses alone have an attrition rate of about 3 years on average before they leave their profession. So they'll study for 3 years and then they'll work in practice, in clinical practice for 3 years, and then they'll leave and change professions. So as a result of that level of stress and high turnover, I thought, do you know what? I really want to do something that supports the well-being of practitioners in the National Health Service. So I decided to change my doctoral program at the School of Health and Medicine, and I was accepted onto the Organisational Health and Wellbeing program, where I began to research presenteeism and the link to burnout, as well as looking at mindfulness, resilience training as interventions to help practitioners manage and cope with the demands of the workplace. Actually, after that, I then decided to specialise in burnout and just look at all professions. So I realised that there was a high rate of burnout within the square mile in London as well, so in corporate finance, amongst lawyers, chief executives as well. And so I didn't want to limit myself to just specialising in the helping professions. I wanted to move on and also look at how I could actually help and make changes within working policy in all aspects of work. So whether it's the corporate world or the healthcare as well. So that's what I did. So I left my permanent job in early 2015, and I took associate positions and freelance work to gain more experience in the corporate world and business psychology. And after that, it just kind of progressed. So I did some training and teaching qualifications. I began to lecture. I got a role in a college as a lecturer as well. And then I went into organisations to do some training on healthcare, managing emotions and mental health awareness. So that's where I am at the moment.
Incredible. That leads us naturally into revealing what the title of today's interview is all about. And we've entitled this Organizational Development Tips, Tricks, and Secrets. And here, Sarah is going to be revealing how every business owner can manage your employee or your team and boost the productivity and set goals that ensure that your company keeps on moving forward. Well, Sarah, thanks again for joining us and revealing to us, what you've been up to and what you are able to do that. In your experience, working with the organization, can you share with our audience one remarkable outcome or positive outcome that came about as a direct result of working with you?
Do you know what? I'd like to start with, just to begin with, the importance of having someone that actually believes in you, first of all. So gaining a coach or a mentor when you're going off on your own is really valuable. And I think that encouragement has been useful. So I was really blessed to meet some great people that saw my potential. And then they encouraged me in my process. So when I said that I wanted to leave my permanent position and to go freelance and pursue the dreams that I had the encouragement in place. So I got myself a coach, or more to the fact that a coach actually offered to coach me, which was really good. And that has been incredibly useful in the early part of my career. So it's opened a lot of valuable doors. And then people would contact me rather than the other way around. So they saw my profile on LinkedIn and they contacted me to see how I could support them. So it's been a natural progression in that sense that I've received telephone calls. In the early days, I actually wrote a book. So I co-authored a book called Your Pocket Full of Inspiration, 100 Ways to Happiness, with the CEO of TLC International. And I met him at a conference and I got talking to him. He was the keynote speaker at the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development conference. And so I talked to him and I realized that there was a project there that we could collaborate on. He has a lot of knowledge and he's a huge influencer in the field of training and development. But he didn't have the knowledge of positive psychology, which is what I'm actually trained in and a specialist in. So we collaborated on our first book. And we wrote that together and it was published 5 weeks later. So the tenacity and the determination was there. There was a lot of strength in both of our characters and we wanted to make this work. So we got it out there and it's done very well. And the other thing is I actually got a phone call from the CEO of an organization that wanted to do some work. And it was a new field for me because I'd worked in mental health beforehand. So the only experience that I had of organizational development and talent management and business psychology at the time was just purely from my doctoral studies. So it was very academic. So I was afforded that luxury of going into an organization as an associate and picking up skills there. Offered teaching positions to go into organizations and train their staff. I did some courses in mental health awareness, which is really important. And that's highly imperative in this day and age because there's a lot of stress, depression and anxiety in the workplace. The global workplace is completely changing and we need to teach people how to manage that. So to upskill them so they have the resilience and the coping to be able to manage those constant changes and to keep them engaged in the workplace as well. So I saw that engagement was a problem and issues of morale. There was low morale in the workplace as well because they were so used to the constant changes and a lot of ambiguity, and management weren't actually talking about what was taking place. So if there was restructuring in the workplace, it wasn't actually, people were aware of what was going on, but they want to happen. So that, with it being so ambiguous, there was a lack of coping. So I saw that there was a real need there because when there's a lack of coping and when there's ambiguity, people's stress levels rise. They don't know what's happening. So their engagement suffers, morale suffers, and the workplace almost becomes toxic to working. But we need to manage that because the workplace is a changing workplace. The global workplace is constantly changing. There's a lot of agile working, a lot of freelancers now. In the next 20 years, there'll be a lot more freelancers working. With the millennials as well, that brings change. So I think it's about managing organizational expectations of the employees, and again, the employees' expectations of the change in workplace, and linking that up so that the psychological contract that they have is aligned to boost the level of engagement. Stress being a factor as well. I mean, my experience is work as a mental health practitioner. I wanted to utilize those skills so that I could boost well-being at work and look at ways that organizations can work with individuals in a unique way rather than prescribing a one-size-fits-all solution to workplace culture. So being really extroverted dominant, focusing on collaboration and constant collaboration so that there'd be a lot of meetings, a lot of sharing of ideas, but in actual fact, not everyone works like that. So if someone is a bit quieter, if they're more introverted, if they're introspective, their creative solutions, creativity comes from being alone, actually, and not constant collaboration. And constant collaboration actually, it causes an introverted person to actually be drained of their energy. So my passion there is just to teach organizations on how they can manage that and provide solutions to a very diverse workplace.
Incredible.
Rather than the notion that we work the same, and it's almost like operant conditioning. You provide rewards and your staff